Welcome, everybody. I'm Joel Barrett, and this is the first episode of Better Together Tuesdays. I'm your host, and together we're going to make business simple, even in complex times like these right now. So this webinar, let me give you a little background on it. The webinar is in response to the many questions that we receive here at the Missouri SBDC on a daily basis from small business owners, entrepreneurs in the Kansas City, Missouri region and beyond. As you can imagine right now during the COVID-19 experience that's happening, we're getting a lot of questions. And so we help business owners like you start and grow your business. And just to give you a little rundown, we do it in about 3 different ways. One is group learning like this, classes, webinars. Of course, all of our in-room classes have turned into these virtual experiences for the time being. But welcome, I'm glad you're a part of it. And we're going to learn a little bit more about some of the other offerings later on in this. And also, the other thing that we do is we connect people to resources to benefit them. So we can connect you to organizations, other professionals who may specialize in your unique needs. And then there's one-on-one coaching that's always available to you. And that one-on-one coaching with a consultant like myself or my guest Rebecca today, that is available to you at the low cost of no charge. And so I want you to take advantage of those things, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how to do that. If you're not familiar with the Missouri SBDC, we're funded in part by local, state, federal tax dollars, some other funding organizations who support entrepreneurship and small business in our community. We believe that we're better when we're together. And I read a quote this week. Let me make sure everybody's muted here. All right. I read a quote this week by Shelley Cipher, the chairman and CEO of First Bank in St. Louis, who said, "Surviving and thriving in a crisis is rarely a solo event." And so that was the whole kind of catalyst for what we're doing with this idea that we're better when we're together. We don't need to be all by ourselves in this. So the webinar is going to be divided into 3 segments, and this is a very fast-paced webinar. We aim to keep it at 30 minutes, no more than that, because if you're like me, you're full of these 1-hour webinars and Zoom meetings, and it feels like, where do I actually work when I'm doing between all of these meetings that I'm going to? So this will be divided into 3 segments: focus, innovate, and engage. So you ready? If you're ready, let's get started. I want to welcome my guest, Rebecca Goebbels. She is my colleague at the Missouri Small Business Development Center. Thanks for being with me today, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me, Joel.
Well, today we're going to focus on sole proprietors, contractors, 1099ers, and the self-employed, and what that means for everybody and where do they fall in all of that, because we've been getting a lot of inquiries right now from business owners who identify as one of these, and they're wondering what their options are during this COVID-19 shutdown. So Rebecca has a lot of experience in the banking industry. She has a lot of experience in coaching and working with entrepreneurs and startups. She has probably about 1,000 startup clients that she's coaching at any given time. So we're good friends and colleagues, and she knows what she's talking about. Plus, she has the gift of making complex things simple. So I appreciate that. So Rebecca, I'm just going to dive right in, start asking you some questions and get your feedback on that. Cool?
Sure.
All right. So I mentioned this long list of names: sole proprietors, contractors, 1099ers, self-employed. And I have found that a lot of people don't know which one they are, or if they're all of them or none of them. They just know there's something in that mix. So could you tell us briefly kind of what the difference is, if there is any?
There largely isn't from a legal standpoint. Self-employed people may pay themselves a paycheck using a traditional W-2 format where you pay FICA taxes and all of that on your income. But some self-employed people don't. Some people just take a little draw here and there out of their profits, and that's how they pay themselves. Some people consider themselves contractors. Oh, I'm just a contractor. I get my 1099 at the end of the year. You too are self-employed. You employ yourself as a 1099 contractor. And that's such a mindset thing. You know, like, I'm just a contractor. you are a business owner that employs one person, and that has some of the biggest issue with what does and doesn't apply to me, I have found to be related to the mindset of the individual person. As part of this CARES Act funding, it was, let's see, 2 weeks ago Friday went into law, and then part of that financing through the CARES Act empowered SBA preferred lenders to make loans to not only traditional small businesses, but self-employed and contractor individuals. Those loans for self-employed and individuals, 1099 folks, they were allowed to start accepting applications for PPP loans at the banks this past Friday. However, there has been no official rule come down from the Small Business Administration about how that income will be counted and how those loans will potentially be forgiven. So are banks now accepting applications for you? Yes. Do they know how to do it yet? No.
So is that why people aren't hearing anything yet, even though they submitted their application?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and would it be great if we all got tons of feedback as we were going through this process? Yes, that would be the ideal. But every bank in America right now is like a snake who swallowed a grapefruit, trying to figure out what to do to digest that volume. And so we're going to spot our brothers and sisters in the finance industry a little grace as they try and deal with all of our needs collectively at the same time.
So a follow-up question on that, is there still time to apply for one of these loans if I am a 1099er, contract, sole proprietor?
Yes, there absolutely is. Technically, you can apply through the EIDL loans, which is the direct through the SBA path through December 31st of this year. And you can apply for PPP loans through your SBA preferred lender through June 30th of this year. Now, would I wait that long? No, as those funds are first come, first serve. So those are the length of time that you can technically wait, but I do not recommend technically waiting.
When we say EIDL, it's important to note that on the website is EIDL. That's how it looks. We've just been calling it the EIDL because it's easier to do.
Yeah, it stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan.
What if your business as a 1099 or contract person, maybe you're kind of new and you actually you've just put all your profits back into your business and haven't shown a profit, so to speak, or drawn a paycheck? Where does that leave you?
It leaves you in a situation where you should still follow some of the advice in some of the articles that we've written, and I believe you'll share about later in this conversation about still gathering financial information. But if you don't pay yourself and you don't have any record of ever having paid yourself, then it might be best for you to pursue the unemployment path. That is available as, again, an expansion of state-based unemployment is available as part of the CARES Act. It includes supplement of federal unemployment insurance on top of state. And if you've never had any financial record in your business of having paid yourself, that might be the best path to find relief for your circumstances right now.
All right, good advice. One last question in this focus part. We've been hearing all about this $10,000 that everybody's going to get. How do I, as a contract person, get my hands on that 10 grand?
Okay, so if you are a contract person and you employ just yourself, the amount that you may receive is $1,000. And that grant is the word that was floating around, like, oh my gosh, I gotta go get my free money, right? Which nobody was excited. Nobody wants coronavirus to be a thing, but if there was gonna be relief, we all wanted to get our piece. However, as the details of the EIDL loans, which is where this particular feature exists, is on the EIDL loan through the direct to SBA path. When you apply, it has a box that says, would you like an up to $10,000 advance? Those advances are coming out distributed at $1,000 per employee, capped at $10,000. And so yes, by all means, apply for an EIDL loan and do check the box that you would like in advance. That advance is forgivable, assuming you do not commit fraud. If you commit fraud, while that's not personally guaranteed, they will come after you for criminal fraud charges. So just go apply for EIDL and don't commit fraud. You'll be golden.
More good advice.
Yeah, write it down. You heard it here first, people. No fraud. SBDC advice.
Let's move into the second segment, which is the innovate part. So what can I do differently now and in the future? Because I know, Rebecca, you and I are experiencing this as we're dealing with clients. A lot of people are realizing that maybe they weren't as prepared for something like this as they thought they were. And so we'd like to help you think a little bit about what can you be doing right now and what can you be doing differently in the future. So thoughts about that, Rebecca?
We talked at the head of this conversation a little bit about mindset being one of the barriers to people knowing how and when to proceed as a self-employed person or contractor. A big thing that you can do now is at this moment, begin to treat your company like a company, because it always was, whether you treated it that way or not. A sole proprietorship is still a business. And as a 1099 contractor, you are technically also legally a sole proprietor. So let's treat it like a business. Let's make sure and get our legal documentation squared away, which is not required. You don't have to have any particular documentation as a sole proprietor, but if you want to do business under a trade name or something like that, there's a fictitious name filing that's required in Missouri. You should probably begin to track what money comes in and goes out in financial records, if that's not already something that you were doing. Many contractors run their businesses like this. Oh, great, I got a check. I'm going to go spend some money today, the end. There are processes about like financial records and record keeping that can help you get tax benefits, those kind of things that your SBDC counselor can help you put together at this time. Additionally, if you find yourself in a situation with time in your hands, the best time to prepare for an emergency is always before. But now that we're all living through one right now, and some of us have free time, now is an excellent time to begin to make a plan for business continuity and business resiliency for the next emergency that may someday come again. And so that's another thing that you can be doing right now with the aid of your SBDC counselor, if these words are not making sense to you, to help get prepared for whatever may be next in your company as well.
And it can be overwhelming. I mean, there's a lot of information out there.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Rebecca and I are in a daily statewide briefing every day, and it sometimes feels like it's brand new information each day because things have tweaked and turned. And so it's interesting every day to go, oh, that was yesterday's news. Now today's news is something different. So we understand if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this and feeling like I don't know where to turn, that's why we're here. I want to point out one other thing here, Rebecca, that we've kind of taken note of. From time to time, when people start businesses, they get advice from whoever their tax person is to say, oh, let me show you, you can make, we'll teach you how to do your taxes so that you don't show a profit and that way you don't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
What's the downside of that right now?
The downside of having managed your taxes to show that you always have a loss is that right now, when you're seeking loan financing, you're going to banks and saying to them, look, I don't ever make any money, but I'm a great risk. Trust me. And again, if the only issue you as a business owner ever have to deal with is high tax burden, wonderful. I have no objection to the keeping taxes low tax strategy, right? That is perfectly fine to take advantage of every option that is legally available to you. However, in being creative and stretching the truth past some people's ethical bounds, you have created a situation where you are not profitable and therefore not financeable under some lending options. Now, you may be able to proceed with both PPP loans and EIDL loans in this period of time, but those funds are going to run out, and then eventually it'll need to be back to business as usual. And when that happens, you may need yet another round of financing or some other monetary support. And being a small business with books that say I lose money all the time, winka winka, is not the best position to be in.
So another good thing you can be doing right now differently is as we look into this tax season, because many people did not file their taxes yet because of this extension, which was normally April 15th, which is what, tomorrow? I think.
Yeah, April 15th is tomorrow, but luckily now both federally and in the state of Missouri, you have until July 15th. So that now on July 14th, you can be like, oh wait, that's tomorrow.
So might be some time to be thinking about how you're going to do your taxes this year, so that if you're in the habit of saying, oh, look, I don't owe any taxes, that's a good thing, you might want to be rethinking that right now. And besides, if we didn't pay our taxes, you wouldn't have Rebecca and I here to share this information today. So as Rebecca,
so true. Nor your IDA loan, nor your PPP loan that we're recommending that you apply for.
Exactly. All right. So we've talked a little bit about this focus. We've gotten into the Innovate part. Folks, if you have questions, I can't guarantee we'll get to them, but feel free to type those into the chat window. We're going to talk now about the Engage part, which is where can I learn more? Because the purpose of this webinar is to keep it fast-paced, enough information for you to want to know some more information and where to go get it. So let's talk first about one-on-one coaching with the SBDC. Rebecca, can you tell us a little bit about that? And I'm going to share my screen to pull up the contact form while you talk about it.
Sure. As Joel mentioned, one of the primary services of the Small Business Development Center is no-cost one-on-one business coaching. To connect with us, you can reach out to us via phone, email, or our Contact Us page. I know Joel's in the process of showing you that information. And you basically just write and say, hey, I'm in this circumstance, whatever your circumstance is, can you hook me up with a consultant to help me? And then we will help you. It's a pretty great process. And so again, Joel is showing you the Contact Us page on our website. It's sbdc.umkc.edu. You can call us at 816-235-6035, or you can email us at sbdc. Because it's an email address, at sbdc@umkc.edu. Those are all the ways that you can get in touch with us. And basically you just reach out and say, hey, this is who I am and this is what I need right now. Can y'all help me? And we'll figure out one of I think we have 10 staff members now. One of the 10 of us will reach out and we'll hook you up and see what we can do to figure out the specifics for your situation, especially as so much of this for 1099 folks and self-employed people is still being determined as they've started to take those apps, but they haven't figured out exactly how that's going to go yet. And so please reach out, and as we learn more, we will help you learn more as well.
And I just want to let you know that if you're like me, when you go to a website and the only way to contact somebody is through this contact form, I tend to be like, I don't want to do that. But there's a reason why I brought that up. This actually is one of the best ways, if you're not already connected to the center, to get into the system, so to speak, because our program manager, Michelle, takes all of this. She knows how to then sort it out to the appropriate counselor. So this is really the fastest way to get into the system. I hate to use the word system, but that's what it is. And it helps us better know how to help you. So that's why I brought the contact page up. Let's talk about some other ways to engage. I'm going to move over to, here's the home page. And then when you go to classes and calendars, you can go down to training events down here. And you'll see, like, for example, just this week on April 16th, we have a class called First Steps to Starting a Business and the Basics of Writing a Business Plan. I bring those up because I'm finding that a lot of people now, because of this COVID-19, are realizing that maybe they didn't have their businesses organized and legal as they thought they did. Maybe they've just kind of been doing their thing, doing some work, and people are paying them for it. So here's an opportunity just to kind of start all over again, so to speak, and get a refresher course about what you need to be doing in order to be legal, in order to have your ducks in a row, so if something like this ever pops up again, and that happens this Thursday, but it also happens once a month. So if this Thursday isn't good for you, you can always sign up for a future class. Rebecca,
Joel, about that class in particular, yes, there's some legal stuff, but this class is really about strong foundation of a business, and many of us are finding that we didn't have all the foundational pieces that we might have wanted or needed or thought we had. And so beyond just legal things, There is a lot of good content in that particular opportunity that I think some are realizing they wish they had in place already.
Yes. Then, as we were talking a little bit ago, I'm going to scroll down here so I don't want to make you sick by scrolling quickly, but you can go and look at these. However, also coming up in June is a class that Rebecca teaches. Rebecca, drum roll, tell us about the class that you're going to be teaching right there.
I will be teaching in June, reading and understanding financial statements. This is one where, again, a lot of people are like, wait, I have to like do something with my books and able to qualify for financing. I don't even understand these things. And so this is sometime in the future. I'm hoping that everyone still has an opportunity to be back at work by then. That's our sincere hope. But being back at work and being prepared for using your financial statements for decision making rather than just filling in order to get whatever you may need next. This is a wonderful opportunity. Additionally, there are some folks out there who are thinking of starting businesses in these times. We do have a 30-hour every single Tuesday class coming up on what is it, April 21st, every Tuesday all day, called New Venture. If you or someone you know is wanting to start a thing, you can come join us for New Venture if you choose.
There's information about right there. Elevation Lab, New Venture. All of our training happens in our space that we call the Elevation Lab, because our goal is to elevate you. Also, want to tell you about one of our partners that we're working on this with this webinar on is KCsourcelink. And if you're not familiar with KCsourcelink, this is usually what I tell all of the entrepreneurs that come through our classes, that there are about 200 and some organizations in Kansas City dedicated to entrepreneurship in some form. That's a lot of searching for different organizations. And so KCsourcelink exists to get you connected to those organizations. So if you are going, well, I have a need for something, and you list some particular idea, instead of having to Google, figure out what's available in the area, you can go to KCsourcelink. You can do it online, or you can call them. Also, at the top of the page, you'll see there is a part all about resources related to COVID-19. So if you click there, you're going to see many different things that they have. They're updating their website constantly and putting information out there. So again, there's information about funding, getting you connected to resources. What about the PPP and the EIDL? There is some checkoff lists here so that you can go through and make sure that you're doing the right things. So there's a lot of information available to you and resources available to you. So my goal for you is take action, get involved in something, because sitting around, and as we are tempted to do sometimes in this quarantine, is feel like, I don't know what to do. And so I'm just gonna like sit and rock in the corner and do nothing. But there is actual help for you. I want to encourage.
You seem very familiar with that response, Joel.
Yes, exactly. Don't assume the fetal position and rock. Yeah, there are things to be done. So let me tell you a little bit about what's upcoming, because we're almost done with this session. We're going to next week talk about unemployment. I'm going to have someone, a couple of, probably one or two guests that I'm working with right now to come onto the webinar and tell you a little bit how to navigate the unemployment factor of all of this. We'll talk about unemployment, layoffs, furloughs, what that means in COVID-19. Many people are really struggling to navigate that as well. I am not an expert when it comes to unemployment, so I'm bringing in some experts to assist, and we'll have some conversation about that next week. And we'll be doing some good things in these few weeks on Better Together Tuesday. So tell your friends and your business partners about this. Tune in. If you have something that you feel like, oh, I would really like to hear about this particular subject, don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know that. I'm looking on our chat. We've got a COVID-19 business resource link that's in the chat room. So if you want to copy that and paste that and just paste it into your browser, you can do that. Rebecca, anything else today that you'd like to share before we bring this to a close?
Just a reminder that there are financing options available both for low interest rate loans that are largely forgivable and or unemployment insurance for today's audience of self-employed folks, 1099 contractors, solo entrepreneurs. And that if you're feeling, you're like, man, that's a lot for me to fish through and read on my own, I could use a little guidance, that we are specifically here to help you figure it all out together, and not just on Better Together Tuesdays. We will help you Monday through Friday.
We just set aside this date. That made me think I will end with one parting screenshot here of a page from our website where we have a long list. We've referred, if you've been on any other webinars with us, we refer to this document often. It is updated regularly. But this, Rebecca actually wrote this, and it just goes through everything that you can be doing, thinking about, preparing for. It starts off with cash flow management practices, things you can be doing, how you can manage your cash differently right now, creating a cash runway. Then it goes down into the specifics about disaster funding for the SBA, and there are links here that you can click as well. And then the kind of documentation that you're going to need really for any loan, but especially for these right now. So there's a list of the kinds of things you can be getting together. I've had so many business owners that have contacted me and say, well, I applied for the loan and I haven't heard anything. And so be getting ready during this time. It's not uncommon that you haven't heard something. A lot of people have not heard anything. I would say in the last 2 days, we've started getting good responses and hearing that people are receiving funds or receiving approval. But while you're waiting, get your ducks in a row, so to speak. Take advantage of this list, work through it. If you're not familiar with some of these things, it'd be a good time to get some one-on-one coaching or take one of the classes that I mentioned. What you're going to need for your personal documentation is listed here as well. All right. Thank you for joining us today for Better Together Tuesdays. And Rebecca, thank you for being my first guest. And we'll see everybody again next week, same time, same place. And have a great Tuesday, everyone.
Take care.